we're together in the same room and we're able to break bread together as we do this work. So we're going to try and use breakout group discussions and reporting out for the conversation about priorities. And I think with a smaller group that may be easier to do. So let me turn it over. The first part of the agenda is a review of our 2020 activities, and Wib Gully is going to share a presentation on that.
Thank you, John, and again, welcome to everybody. It's great to see your faces at this time of year, and I'm thankful that we can be together even virtually. And was going to ask Bree to go ahead and tee up the year in review. It's nice to have somebody with technological skills, tech skills. There we go. So we ought to probably click on slideshow. Yeah. So the year in review, what happened in 2020 as we look back, right? The next slide will begin to tell you. It was truly a very difficult, extraordinarily challenging year. Health challenges, economic challenges, unlike anything we've seen for over a century. And it in the places it hit hardest, it certainly made it harder for our community's effort to provide affordable housing and affordable transit. And this is just some of the ways, but you all are familiar with this. Finding and maintaining shelter for our homeless residents just became very difficult and required a lot of innovative thinking and a lot of resources, local resources, to make it happen. And it continues to be difficult. The economic downturn forced the city to hold off of issuing any of the affordable housing bonds that had been approved just back in November 2019. So a lot of the excitement, the programs, and the benefits that'll come from those programs and the bonds has all been suspended while the economic pressure on Durham's residents for housing has not eased at all. It's gotten, if anything, worse. And then there were new and substantial challenges and issues for public transportation, including restrictions that meant fewer riders per bus and a cutback on the number of buses and service, plummeting ridership as a lot of folks stayed home as they were asked to do. And then the whole new world of challenges around PPE, protective equipment, masks, and so forth. And we could talk a long time about how John and Bike Durham and other folks stepped up to meet that. But it was just a really hard time from those perspectives and for our work. Next slide, Bree. Bree, I don't think I can control the slides, can I? Can you go to the next one? Oh, there it is. Okay. So 2020 was also a year in which it just became difficult to do things. Groups that work to provide affordable housing, everyone had to change the way they worked. You couldn't have in-person meetings. You couldn't have meetings on site, interactions. It all became virtual, as you all know well, including today. And so getting things done was slower, harder, less effective, and I think in many ways less satisfying for us as we related to each other either by phone or virtually. So getting things done was slower and harder. And all of our meetings, for example, for the coalition from March forward, including our policy committee meetings, our coordinating committee meetings, interaction among members, us trying to work with city and county officials or advocate and work with housing providers, all of that has become virtual and I think suffered some because of that. Nonetheless, our work has continued and we've had regular monthly meetings on key topics. I'll mention that in a minute. And we've been really happy that between 65 and 100 people, more than 100 people at a couple of the meetings were able to attend. And I know that's in part because we have fascinating meetings and in part because folks were at home a lot more and had time perhaps to join us. And those meetings we touched on, I think, not all, but a number of the important issues that come into our work with affordable housing and affordable transit. One is transit equity, particularly regarding the development of Durham's new short and long-term transit plans. And working in coalition with Bike Durham and the Durham Committee and PA and some good groups in the community. We hosted a candidates forum back in February for the Durham County Board of Commissioners so that all the candidates would have a chance to talk about their positions on these issues of housing and transit. Folks in the coalition have been working very hard this year and for several years on getting an effective property tax assistance program put in place for low-income homeowners. We also heard from the Durham Housing Authority about their downtown affordable housing projects and their rehab at existing communities that they have. Heard from the mayor about the city's priorities, learned more about Durham's housing eviction crisis from legal services and also from folks who work with the homeless in Durham. And we've begun to explore how equitable development would values and perspectives would affect and shape affordable housing development in Durham, new developments. Along the way, we beyond the monthly meetings, a lot of good work continued, supporting Walltown and Bragtown neighborhoods as those communities struggled to ensure that there'd be affordable housing as a part of large new developments proposed right adjacent to them or all around them. Built a strong coalition of community groups and neighborhoods to fight for this property tax assistance program that I just mentioned. Joined with several other major groups, I mentioned this too, around the transit equity campaign here in Durham. Worked to maintain the community's attention to and support of our homeless residents in the midst of a situation made much worse by the pandemic. And finally, we continued the oversight of major affordable housing projects by the city and the county and downtown, as well as leading efforts to and advocating for a change in our local ordinance that allowed a greater number from 3 now to up to 6 unrelated adults that can live in a household, and that immediately provides affordable housing options. So we made it through a really difficult year, as you all can see. This is a reminder about some of those difficulties earlier in the spring. So we made it through the year, and there've been some big changes in our lives. You all can see the father here saying, I really don't mind coming into the office to work because so many of us were working at home all the time. And there's some tough months ahead. We know that we're not out of this yet, but here's to getting through this together. Stay home and stay safe will be our watchwords for a number of months to come. But we can do it. And we know that 2021 will provide for all of us the opportunity to move forward with new work and continuing work for affordable housing and transit here in Durham, much as one of these CAHTs has other projects that they're excited to talk about. We do want to say in closing that we have to recognize and honor one of the folks who was so helpful to us for years and years all along the way, and that's Brother Ray Urquhart, and he remains an inspiration for all of us to continue the work ahead. So there's a look back at the year. John, turn it back over to you.
And thank you for the
That was
reminder
very
about
good. I
muting.
just need to say that was good information. It's encouraging. I know you're talking, John, but I need to put that in to hear the work we've done. Sometimes you're working and you don't realize what you're doing. So to have that was encouraging to prepare us.
Rosa, I appreciate that. Is actually listening to you a couple of weeks ago, it made me realize just to get some things done this year is a real accomplishment. So thank you.
Thank you,
And
Rosa.
thank you for putting Brother Ray in at the end of it. Baba Ray, I think he is now.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. For those of you who have joined more recently, please introduce yourselves in the chat to everyone. And I'm going to turn it over to Marcia for a review of the survey results that will lead into our discussion about priorities for next year.
Okay, so can you hear me? Okay, all right, thank you. So this is actually was a group effort. John, a survey we could take online, which made then part of the tallying of the data a lot easier. And Becky Winders did really the heavy lifting of going through all of the open-ended data to sort of suss out what it was meaning. But I want to report that 37 people participated. This is twice as many as participated the first time we did this in 2016. So thank you very much. I'm going to try not to duplicate so much of what Wib said, but it is, I think hopefully you'll get this sense that we do have these themes that keep going forward. In terms of what folks thought we did well this year, general information sharing through our monthly meetings. So the fact that we figured out the technological challenge and carried on was greatly appreciated. We kept issues out in front, BOCC candidate event, spotlights, introducing the 3 to 5 minute spotlights for different people from different organizations. People appreciated that. They appreciated our continued oversight and monitoring and advocacy and mobilizing. You know, these are things that we've done sort of since the beginning, but around tax assistance, Jim and Larissa and Stella and others, it was like way out ahead of the number one thing that people said we did the best. And also starting to pay attention to neighborhood development pressures. So thanks to Vanessa and the Bragtown folks and Brandon and the Walltown folks and the Merrick, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Bonita
Merrick Moore.
on the Merrick Moore issues. We thank you for bringing those to us and for letting us get our feet wet and in trying to figure out how to build a stronger coalition. We always have to ask, what could we have done better this year? And it is interesting that a lot of people said, nothing, you guys are doing great, keep going. But I think around equitable development, particularly as we come to understand it and then sort of make it our own in terms of what we need to work on, given our issues of affordable housing and transit and how to be effective and who to work with, are definitely what people wanted us to work on. In terms of how we operate, more discussions at meetings, more youth involvement. Rosa's been really insistent on that and pushing on that, which I think you'll see next year. But also, this is interesting to me that we aren't necessarily staying on some of the planning issues that like developing an agenda for curbing sprawl that incentivizes smart growth to include affordable housing or be better situated for public transit, monitoring the impact of expanding housing choices. We had a long list provided by the respondents about who to invite for next year, which we're working on for our monthly meetings. We had 5 people, new people, say they'd like to start to participate in some of our committees. Yay! And you will be hearing from us directly, as they say out here in the country. But what I want to end with is the sort of list of what we should work on in 2021, because that's the sets up what we're going to do next. And this is a distillation of the answer to several questions. So I'm going to read the list, but you don't have to memorize it because you'll get a chance to see it and take a crack at it again. Number 1, support effective, comprehensive homeless services, including collaboration with Durham's Homeless Services Advisory Council, a new council that formed this summer during COVID, and advocate for increased rental relief for tenants facing eviction. Number 2, advocate for, and you'll remember that evictions was the number 1 thing that we set out to work on last year. Advocate for effective property tax assistance program. Number 3, monitor and oversee the city's affordable housing bond program. once the committee is finally seated and they start to work, and the city can start to spend some of that money, or issue the bonds, excuse me. Continue support for and scrutiny of the city and county's affordable housing developments, both in downtown and across the city. Work closely with to support Durham nonprofit affordable housing providers. I saw Selena here somewhere, so I'm sure she'll be glad to hear that. Give strong support to Go Durham's transit plan and Durham paying a fair share for any commuter rail project. I think this is something we're going to hear a lot more about next year. Advocate for county commissioners to establish investment levels required to meet the needs of current transit riders, workers, and residents of low-income neighborhoods of color before negotiating Durham's share of commuter rail costs. Work for greater transit equity, both in the new short-term and in longer-term transit plans. Address para transit issues, which Marie's been a great advocate for and voice for. Explore and support local efforts to remove barriers to minority and women business enterprises and participation in local affordable housing and transportation projects. Continue to work to help protect historically black neighborhoods from displacement and gentrification, and gather information about what other urban areas in the US are doing to achieve equitable development in housing and transportation. So that's a lot of talking. Becky, I don't know if you want to add anything before I turn it back over to John. You're on mute.
I think that you covered it well, and we can move on and talk about them in the groups.
Okay, all right. So John, back to you.
Great, thank you, Marcia. Okay, now is the interactive portion of today's agenda. So Bree is going to create breakout groups for small group discussion about the priorities for the coming year. So in the past, we've done dot exercises. We don't have a good way of doing that now. So that the charge for each small group will be, first, introduce yourselves to one another if you don't already know everyone else in your group. Second, you will have a member of the coordinating committee in your group who will help facilitate and make sure that you're capturing the key themes to report out. And then you should discuss 2 questions. So the first one is looking at that list of initial priorities, draft priorities. Is there anything missing? Is there anything that you would like to see added for consideration that the coalition would work on? And please keep in mind that the coalition is an all volunteer group. And so any of the ones that you're adding or think are priorities, we would certainly welcome volunteer assistance, like Marcia said, several people have represented. So that's the first question. Are there other topics that you don't see in there that really should be considered? And then the second question is, are there any questions or comments about these that you want to be lifted up for the broader group? And then the third is, what do you think the priorities should be? So we'll come out of this with report outs, and then we'll have a poll where you'll be able to select what you think should be the top 3 priorities. And in terms of thinking about priorities, think about, is it an urgent item that is going to come forward in the coming year? Is it appropriate for this coalition and our strengths as you're thinking about which should be the priorities? So before Bree sends you out, are there questions, clarifying questions about what the work is of each small group, breakout group? So you see a link to the list of 12 items that Marcia read off in the chat. It's also been posted in there, and then Bree has just posted those 3 questions for the breakout group. So if there aren't any questions right now, Bree, send us out, and I think we've got about 10 minutes for 10 to 12 minutes for the discussion.
You all will receive an invitation to join. Just go ahead and hit it, please.
This is just an addition to one of the existing points under not only expand opportunities for minority firms, but also expand job training and development and hiring in housing related projects.
Okay.
I think we can add that. That's a good addition.
And with regard to nonprofit providers, we had a good suggestion that actually, this is a goal we did. This is we should explore this and identify the ways that nonprofit providers can be helped that need more attention. So not a new point, but just elaborating that point.
Okay. Cool.
And Brianna,
Yes.
our group zeroed in on number 6 and 7 and offered some alternative language on those to sort of make it a little clearer that the commuter rail is not necessarily a done deal, but that we're still talking about sort of how to use transit tax investments, which can only be used for transit projects, to maximize the interests of the groups that were noted in number 7 before.
Okay, I'm going to
Just
change
want to
it
point
transit.
out that the Durham Committee opposes the commuter rail. Just going to put that on the record.
Okay.
I've changed number 6 to say transit projects rather than commuter rail.
Sure. And can you see we added them to the Google Doc, the alternative language and other.
No, I'm trying to edit the poll right now while we're talking so that I can launch it.
Okay, well, we just so you know, we added some language to the Google Doc as well that you can look at.
Cool, thank you. All right, so the poll may not reflect the exact language yet, but that's something that we can tweak with the understanding that there's a shared Google Doc and we can all access it and we can vote. And so the poll is ready as far as I know. So you all tell me what you'd like me to do with it and I'll go from there.
John, are there any other comments that you had or?
So let me just add a few things that came up in our group. They're not for adding to the poll, but Dan just reminded us that this coming 2021 is a mayoral and city council election year, and that one of the functions that the coalition has typically played is holding a candidate forum and educating people about the issues and the candidates' stance on the issues. And so we should be thinking about how that fits into the work. Sherry with DCLT shared that the rental assistance program, from her perspective, that rental assistance item, the first one that's listed with homeless services, is really the most important way to support nonprofit housing providers at this point in time as well. And James with NIS both noted that number 11, which I'm forgetting what number 11 is, but also the equitable development, they align pretty well with NIS's priorities and the fair housing work that they do. And also noted a challenge for them that we should be considering is how to better work in the priorities of people with limited English proficiency, to note whether those are different or if they have additional challenges that we're not reflecting here.
Let me add a couple of quick comments too. Ms. Benita Green in our group, American Morse, made a great suggestion. I think that it would be good if the coalition could develop a one-page description of what affordable housing means in Durham, to be used by a lot of folks in neighborhoods and throughout the community, so that people don't always think affordable housing means public housing, to broaden understanding about that. So I think that's something we'll just work on. It doesn't need to be an issue topic. That's something that we'll take as a work assignment to get done. And as far as, and I'm saying this with regard to number 6 or 11 are the ones about where people had different wordings. it's not important that the wording be precise at this point. We don't need to thrash out exactly as much as indicate what your interest is or support for activity in that area. So I think that'll hopefully be useful as we go to polling. John, I'm ready to go to polling. Are you?
I think it's time to do it. Bree, how many minutes are you going to give everyone? Just 3 or 4 minutes?
Yeah, I think 5 at the latest. I'll go ahead and close it at 5. So I'm going to go ahead and launch it. Please choose 5 total. So that means you're going to have 2 questions. That's because we ran out of space on the first question option. So between the 2 questions, you should have 5 total. You can choose multiple answers, and we'll share the results, and the top 5 are the top 5 priorities, and then the rest are things that will be included as there's space. That's the way we've done it in the past. It's just you can't vote multiple times on one issue this year. So you get one vote per issue, and you can have 5 choices.
So under number 1, Bree, we vote once, and then you come down to number 2, which lists those, and you vote once. Is that right?
No, you should be able to vote. You should be able to choose out of both questions. You should be able to choose. Like if there were 3 priorities under question 1 you'd be able to choose 3 there and 2 in the other one, or 3 in the other one and 2 in that one.
Right.
Yeah.
Or 1 and 4 or whatever, but
Yeah.
between the number 1 and number 2, you get 5 choices. Okay,
Yes.
Thank you.
Bree, I'm sorry to say this, but the first question allows you to choose multiple. The second question set up, you can only choose 1.
What? Let me fix that real quick. My apologies, everyone.
No. You may only vote once.
Yeah, you only vote 1 time as opposed to having 1 vote, John, I guess, maybe what it means.
No, mine is the way it's set up on mine is if I choose a second one, it erases the first one. So as opposed to
I see what you mean.
you can check several.
Okay. I'm fixing that, and I'll relaunch it.
Okay.
I must have clicked something while I edited it.
That's still, you pulled it back again.
The technology is so wonderful, isn't it, in this year?
I knew something was going to go wrong. I knew it.
Pandemic
It was
year
too
that
easy.
we had to struggle with this stuff.
While Bree is working on that, Jim, do you want to go ahead and give the property tax assistance update so that we don't lose time for that?
Yeah, real quick, the information's been distributed. And please get this into the hands of people who might be able to use it. I will be sending after the meeting a Spanish translation of the deferred payment program. I like to thank my son John for translating it, and so I'll get that out. But if there are any questions, suggestions about places or other places that you go to, let me know.
And I prepared a postcard similar to the ones we did to ask people to support it. And that has time is running out, and the number to the community empowerment fund. Is that right?
Yes.
The number to the community empowerment fund and the email address if you need assistance. And I will be glad to send that out to everybody. It's in the same format, the same, so that it's consistent in the messaging and branding that you can distribute widely. And I put it up on the Facebook page of the Durham Committee as well as my own Facebook page. I think I copied the PA and the coalition sites, or I tagged you on it as well, but I'll get it out to everyone. I'll get it to Becky so she can get it out to everyone after the call. And I'll be happy to try to figure out the proper translation piece on it too.
Thank you, Stella, and thank you, Jim, both for ongoing fabulous work on that.
Bree is still working on the poll. So Marcia, could you give an update on the Northgate redevelopment?
Yes, there's sort of two tracks. One is Wib and I have had meetings, various meetings with representatives of Northwood Raven, which is the developer who owns the site, the Northgate site, and we've participated along with folks from North Carolina State in providing technical design and planning support to the Northgate Mall Neighborhood Council, which is being led by Brandon Williams from Walltown. And a really amazing result is that this group has 7 neighborhoods. They have been doing community meetings, community events. Just some of them have been online, some of them have been in well-aired outdoor spaces to get feedback on the 3 development alternatives that they've proposed or have developed to the Northwood Raven alternative. 4 out of the 7 neighborhoods have held those. They also have an online survey going to get feedback on them. And like 10 days ago, when we talked to Brandon, they had 311 responses to that, and they're aiming for 400. The survey closes in mid-January. And members of this council, the neighborhood council, and the developer's architect are starting to meet and have dialogue about what could improve, what the developer's thinking to make it more neighborhood, their project more neighborhood friendly. Brandon also, I don't know if anyone else attended the December 10th City Council work session, but Brandon gave an unbelievably great presentation of all this work to the City Council, and City Council was really impressed by the work that they've done in basically, sort of doing a self-determined planning process for the future of Northgate Mall.
Thank you, Marcia. That was great. Bree, you still need a couple minutes?
Maybe one more minute. I think she's getting close, John.
Okay, Terry, could you give us an update on the homeless services and evictions, please?
Briefly on homeless services, a lot of the work has been around ensuring places for people to stay on what's called white flag nights when it gets below 35 or 40 degrees with inclement weather. Placements have been done at the Carolina Duke Inn, as well as work to set up a temporary shelter site at Trinity Methodist Church downtown. And so that has continued to present some challenges and is either already operating or near operating. I haven't talked to anybody in the last few days. So there's work to do that. On the eviction front, you all may have seen that Congress passed a big bill last night, which extended the moratorium on evictions through the end of January and provided $25 billion in rental assistance across the country. We don't know how much of that will find its way into North Carolina as well as into Durham. As was related earlier, it's probably one of the most important issues we are looking at right now, because as we continue to wind our way along response to the COVID crisis, we are about to poised to have an eviction crisis in Durham. And so we want to continue to make sure that legal aid and the Department of Social Services continues to be receive sufficient funds to make sure they can help prevent those evictions. Because even with a moratorium, that's just a delay of the money being paid. It's not taking care of everything. So the assistance is critical. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Terry. And thank you, Brianna. It looks like both questions are working where you can select multiple responses. So
Great, that's what we like to hear.
yeah.
All right.
Okay, so in the next couple of minutes, please select up to 5 from items from the 2 questions and submit it.
and you vote or select just by clicking on that item.
Click on the item, it should turn blue with a check mark in it. And once you're comfortable with it, hit the red submit button at the bottom. And Bree, can you see in real time how many have?
Yeah, we have 8 out of 32, so a quarter of people have voted. All right, we're at 51%. %. Three more votes, y'all. 3 more.
The suspense is killing me, Bree.
I know we had at least one abstention, so.
Yeah.
Bree, are you going to be able to share the results in real time? Pop that up on the screen.
I can share the results in real time. I'm just waiting. We're not quite at 5 minutes either.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you haven't set up your vote yet, you have 15 seconds.
Bree, just say, I'm looking at mine. I've checked 5 of the boxes and it doesn't let me submit at the bottom. Do I get to vote more times?
Maybe but the hosts can't.
Yeah, which is okay, which is fine.
Probably why there's a.
Okay, I'm ending polling. Sharing results. Marcia, can you see it to make note of the priorities? It's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Bree, will your screen save these, or will your account save these?
My account does save the results. Yes.
Okay. Yep. And what we'll do is we'll get it from Bree and we will make it available to everyone. Send out the results of the email and along with link to make available all the survey results for folks that want to get into that. Thank you, Ms. Reverend Van Veltzen. We appreciate your help with this. Okay.
And thank you all for spending an hour with us today. The last meeting of 2020. We're looking forward to a good closeout of this year and lots of good work together in 2021, and hopefully sometime mid-year or by the fall, we'll all be in the same room together and enjoying each other's company in person. If anybody has any other closing words, happy holidays.
Yeah, thanks. This
Thank
is
you,
great.
guys. Be
Happy
blessed.
holidays, everybody.